This device is supposedly the best way to grow edible mushrooms at home. North Spore's automated Boomr Bin Monotub. So I'm about to use it for 1 month to grow some different mushrooms indoors as a complete beginner. I'm going to show you what the Boomr Bin is and show you the whole process of setting it up and growing some shiitake and blue oyster mushrooms. And later on I'll tell you about the absolute cheapest ways to get started with this hobby if the Boomr Bin falls outside your budget. Spoiler alert! I'm about to make some major mistakes that almost ruin the entire experiment, so drop a comment down below if you can figure out what they are, and stick around to the end of the video to make sure you don't make these beginner mistakes yourself. So, my Boomr Bin is here, just like this, fresh out of the shipping box, and there's clearly a lot to unpack here, but we gotta do it. Let me just show you what I got. So this is just the monotub itself. This part alone is actually pretty affordable, but the automated kit is a little bit more of an investment. If you do wind up getting a Boomr Bin, I recommend getting a bundle since it's a more cost-effective way to snag some of the substrates that you're probably going to want anyway. I got the automated Boomr Bin plus fruiting blocks monotub kit because those seem a bit more beginner-friendly than preparing and inoculating my own substrate. So my bundle came with 1 shiitake fruiting block and 1 blue oyster fruiting block. By the way, I'll drop some discounted links down in the description to save you some money and find these quickly since North Spore sells a lot of different mycology products, so the site can be a lot to navigate. And buying through those affiliate links not only gets you a discount, but it also helps support the channel, which helps me afford to go on these side quests with you guys. So thank you for that. Now let's dig into these goodies. One of the first things I immediately love, believe it or not, are the instruction manuals. As a man, I'm not allowed to read instruction manuals. I just wing it and wind up with a couple of extra screws left over. But North Spore genuinely designs these booklets in a way that really appeals to my ADHD curiosity. And this is definitely some important information. For example, apparently my shiitake block is supposed to sit in the fridge for 48 hours since it's supposed to simulate like a cold snap at the end of the season. So let's put that in there now. I'll also put my blue oyster block to the side for now. And this cardboard packing thing. So the actual parts we're left with are the monotub itself, the mini Fey fan, which, fun fact, does not stand for fairy like I originally assumed. It actually stands for fresh air exchange, which is less cute but extremely important, since mushrooms breathe oxygen like us and need fresh air to thrive. A bunch of adhesive filters that we're gonna plug over the holes on the sides. Then we've got the Myco Mister mini humidifier to keep our mushrooms nice and moist. I think this should also mean I don't need to water my mushrooms manually multiple times per day. Plus the mic controller humidity controller to adjust those humidity levels. And this is probably the most important part of the tub since mushrooms are over 90% water and different mushroom species have different humidity requirements. And this is really helpful because if one mushroom thrives at 85 to 90% humidity and another thrives at 90 to 95% humidity, I can set it specifically to 90% then and grow both of those mushrooms at once rather than maybe guessing and having one of them not do so well. Okay, that setup didn't go too bad. With the automated Boomr Bin set up, now we can put our fruiting blocks in. Shit, my shiitake is still in the fridge. My shiitake block has been refrigerated for the past 48 hours, then soaked in cold water for the last 4, as per my fancy instruction booklet. My blue oyster block in the meantime has just been hanging out on my shelf. So now I'm just supposed to cut an X across the top of my blue oyster block. But my intrusive thoughts are telling me it'll be cooler if I just cut the whole top fold off and let them breathe. So that's what I'm gonna do. I really don't know what all this white stuff is at the top. I'm hoping it's just some dense mycelium, but please let me know in the comments if I'm about to eat something poisonous. Okay, we're just gonna set them in the Boomr Bin. So now I'm gonna set the humidity to like 95% since that should work for both mushroom species according to my manual. Now the Boomr Bin does not directly control temperature. That's just dependent on the general room temperature where you're growing. So I'm gonna set my thermostat to 70 degrees because that's what these mushrooms are happy at. That's what I'm happy at. Now we wait and see what happens.
All right, this is day 1, I guess 24 hours after getting our setup here. Here we go. We're at a nice humidity range. Here's what we got in here. The shiitake actually looks like it's doing pretty well.
The shiitake block is definitely what I'm happiest about. Got a lot of growth in here from what I'm seeing. So these are my little babies coming in here. But the blue oyster doesn't look at first like there's a lot happening, but actually, if you look in here, looks like it's starting to grow just a little bit. We're getting these, I think this is what the pinning is. There's some little bits hiding here and there. So I'm really happy about that. Guys, I f***ed up. The blue oyster and shiitake mushrooms in the Boomr bin are doing awesome. This is day 12 for them. But where I messed up is I tripped over my Myco Mr. mini humidifier this morning, and the water got into the electrical components. There was a big spark and a loud noise, and I could smell like electrical fire, so that wasn't good. So I reached out to customer service right away because I wanted to see if they just had the electrical part instead of me buying a new mini humidifier. And they were so awesome. They immediately shipped me out a brand new replacement. But I just want to say massive shout out to North Spore for their customer service on this one. This was my fault. I was not expecting them to replace this, and they are. I love you guys. Holy crap. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but do you guys see the spores flying around here? You can actually see the spores. That's so cool. It's not humidity because I broke the humidifier.
Womp, womp, womp. My babies. Bottoms up. It's like an earthy, mushroomy taste. All right, so things have been super chaotic. So I'm just fast forwarding here to day 24. That's basically 10 days since we started the kind of redo of the blue oysters. I wound up having to pick the ones that were dying because they just dried out from not having that humidity. But because I kept opening the tub and closing it and spraying in there, I think I really did a number on this project and exposed it to a lot of contamination. As you can see with the filters up here, you can actually see a little bit of mold coming through on that. And it shows on the block. Like the mushrooms and the mold are definitely at war, but the blue oysters seem to be doing really well, so I've just been letting that war kind of play out. All right, so it's day 14, 2 weeks of growth for our blue oysters, and you can definitely see a big difference between the two. So you can tell from the blue oysters in the spray and grow kit versus the ones in the Boomr bin, the humidity in the Boomr bin just helped these things grow a lot better. These definitely seem pretty dry to me, and that's probably just due to the low humidity in my apartment.
So I didn't mention it much in this video because I'm saving that content for another video, but while running this experiment, I simultaneously tried growing 4 of North Spore's spray and grow kits. While I did have some mixed success with those, the mushrooms in the Boomr bin just did so much better, so I decided to run one more lightning round in the Boomr bin, jamming 4 fruiting blocks in at once this time. A golden oyster, pink oyster, blue oyster, and lion's mane fruiting block. Let's see how they did.
I've got 4 fruiting blocks in the Boomr bin right now, and I think these are going to do way better than the spray and grow kits did. The humidity is just creeping up now, but I'm going to be keeping these at 88 to 95% because that's just kind of the number that seems to work with all of them. And I'm going to try to keep my place around 70 degrees. So let's call this day 1. All right, day 8 here. So just 1 week in, and this is already going way better than the first round. The lion's mane is really coming through here. Blue oyster is kind of just starting to poke through there, you can see. And not too much happening here yet on the golden oysters or the pink oysters, but the mycelium in the corners are really actually growing quite a bit. So I'm hoping that they start poking through this week or next week. Day 15, look at this lion's mane. This is crazy. It's getting so big already. We got some blue oyster coming in on the corner here. I had to cut off the plastic because mold was actually starting to grow over the plastic, but the fruiting block itself looks okay. We got a bunch of pink coming in on the pink oyster mushrooms here. And the yellow oyster, not too much happening, but hopefully it gets there soon.
All right, it's day 22, and here's where I'm calling it. I know some people are going to think this is bullshit, but look at how much growth has occurred just in the past week alone since day 15. The lion's mane looks incredible, and I'm stoked at how it turned out. The pink oysters pretty much exploded out of nowhere. All this growth happened in like 1 week, and I'm thinking this guy's pretty much matured by now, just by the way he's money-shotting his spores all over the tub. Then we've got the blue oysters, which didn't turn out the way I wanted them to due to mold contamination within the tub. Which, by the way, we're going to talk about everything I did wrong in just a few minutes, so you don't make those mistakes yourself. But still, the blue oysters were a really fascinating one to watch, because you can literally see the front lines where the mold was straight up at war with the mushroom mycelium. And speaking of mold, you probably noticed that the golden oyster fruiting block isn't in there. That's because I noticed mold starting to form before the mushroom block even had a time to start pinning. So I made the decision to just toss them out, hoping it would prevent the spread of contamination within the tub. And obviously I wasn't fast enough on that. Now I could probably keep going for a second flush of pink oyster and lion's mane mushrooms, but honestly, I'm set. I think I breathed enough mold in for 1 month. I'm calling it. So instead, let's break down what went wrong, what went right, and my overall thoughts on the North Spore Boomr Bin Monotub. So there are definitely some things I would do differently the next time I try growing mushrooms, and if you've already identified some of my mistakes, let us know what you think they are down in the comments below so the internet can see how smart you are. But before I tell you what my biggest mistakes were, let's talk about what went right and who I'd recommend the Boomr Bin to. So when I was originally creating the outline for this video, I thought I knew how it was going to go. I thought my recommendation was going to be, if you're curious about growing mushrooms, get the spray and grow kits. If you're serious about growing mushrooms, get the Boomr Bin. But honestly, the mushrooms in the Boomr Bin just did so much better. I had so much more fun with them, and I think I'd just recommend it outright to anyone who wants to grow mushrooms at home, including beginners. It was awesome for letting me micromanage the precise climate of the mushrooms so I could have easy success even with less beginner-friendly species like the shiitake. I think the spray and grow kits are a really cool and accessible idea where you could start on a budget, but no matter how much I sprayed them, none of mine came even a little bit close to the mushrooms that I had in the Boomr Bin. But hey, maybe your home is more humid than mine. And while I loved that I didn't have to water the mushrooms in my Boomr Bin each day, what I loved even more was how it kept the spores contained once the mushrooms matured. This way they weren't blowing around my kitchen making me cough up a lung. And I appreciated the whole thing being contained even more once that mold started to grow. So let's talk about what went wrong and some of the challenges I faced using the Boomr Bin. First, it's a pretty bulky setup. Now this might not be a problem for everyone, but with my 400 square foot condo, this kit definitely took some prime real estate up on my kitchen table. Next, I did find it to be a little bit of a hassle to keep the humidifier tubing positioned in a way that wouldn't obstruct steam flow. There was actually a morning where I woke up and the humidity reading was low, and I at first thought that the controller was broken, but I eventually figured out that I just needed to prop the tubing up better to let gravity do its thing. But slightly more annoying than this, water would sometimes drip out of the tubing and into the tub, which I couldn't find a workaround for besides laying some paper towels down below it. And I highly recommend using caution when refilling the humidifier because I actually broke my first one and almost ruined the entire experiment by knocking it over and allowing water to destroy the electric base. My bad. Any other issues I had were also my own fault, such as contamination that likely occurred due to me cramming too much in the tub at once and opening and closing the damn thing every day to watch and record daily progress. So if you wanted to maximize your own chances of success using the Boomr Bin, my advice would be to start slow and only grow 1 or 2 blocks at a time, just in case a block came already contaminated. And don't open and close the damn tub every day like I did, because it's only going to further expose them to any kind of contaminants in the air. So who should buy the Boomr Bin, and what's the cheapest way to get started for those who can't? In my opinion, whether you're serious about growing mushrooms or just exploring a new curiosity like I was, I think the Boomr Bin is a great way to get all the best equipment right up front. And North Spore gave me a very generous discount link to share with you guys, so feel free to take advantage of that down in the description. Is the Boomr Bin the cheapest way to get started? No, that would probably be the spray and grow kits, but if you want to see why I'm not really recommending those quite as hard, you can check out this video right here to see my desperate attempt to grow those. You should actually check it out. It's a fun video. Otherwise, you can just like, comment, subscribe,